This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder. In it you will see Miss Jane McBilly, Mr. Kyle Odd, Reese Smith, Jane Grabowski, Lizzie Duffy, Evan Walker, and many others. The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line, longitude 42 degrees 40 minutes, latitude 70 degrees 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. The sky is beginning to show some streaks of light over in the east there, behind our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minute before it has to go. Well, I better show you how our town lies. Right up here is Main Street. Way back there is the railway station. Tracks go that way. Polish Town is across the tracks and some Canuck families. Over here is the Congregational Church. Presbyterian is across the street. Methodist and Unitarian are over there. Baptist is down in the hollow by the river. Catholic is over beyond the tracks. Here's the town hall and post office combined. Jail's in the basement. Brian once made a speech from these steps here. Along here is a row of stores, hitching posts and horse block in front of them. First automobile is going to come along in about 5 years. Belonged to Banker Cartwright, our richest citizen, lives in the big white house up on the hill. Here's the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into these two stores once a day. Public school is over yonder. High school is still farther over. 9:15 mornings, noon times, and 3 o'clock afternoons, the whole town can hear the yelling and screaming from those schoolyards. This is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. This is the back door, and there's some scenery for those who think they have to have scenery. There's a garden here. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhock, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspaper came out twice a week, the Grover's Corner Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. Just like Mrs. Gibbs's, only it's got a lot of sunflowers too. Oh, and right over here, big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it, as far as we know. The earliest tombstones up in the cemetery on the mountain say 1670, 1680. They're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Herseys, same names as are around here now. Well, as I said, it's about dawn. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over beyond the tracks where a Polish mother has just had twins, and in the Crowell house where Joe Jr. is getting up so as to deliver the paper, and in the depot where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to fly the 5:45 for Boston. Naturally, out in the country, most places, they've been lights on for some time, what with milk-ins and so on. But townspeople sleep late. So, another day has begun. That's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. And here's his wife coming downstairs to make breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital is named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, long time ago in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up in the cemetery there now, and with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. That's Doc Gibbs. And here comes Joe Crowell Jr. delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc Gibbs.
Morning, Joe.
Somebody in sick, Doc?
No, just a pair of twins born over in Polish Town.
You want your papers now?
Yes, I'll take it. Anything serious going on in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher, Miss Foster's getting married to a fellow over in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it's none of my business, but I think if a person starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay one.
How do you need, Joe?
Fine, Doc. I never think about it at all. Only like you said, it always tells me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
Never short?
Yes, sir.
Never make a mistake?
No, sir.
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Come on, Bessie. Come on, Bessie. There you go. Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
No, a pair of twins over to Miss Goruslowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Going to rain, Howie?
No, fine day. It'll burn through. Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockharts stopped taking their quart of milk every day. She wants to take me up the hill all the same, keeps scolding me the whole trip. Come on, Bessie. Come on.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Yes, something wrong with the separator. Don't know what was.
Come on, Bessie. Come on. Everything all right?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. George! Rebecca! Time to get up! You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth coming at 11. Guess I know what that's about. Her stomach ain't where it ought to be.
All told, you won't be able to get more than 3 hours of sleep this morning. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what will become of you. I do wish I could get you to go away someplace and take a rest. I think it would do you some good. Children! Wally, Emily, time to get up! I declare you've got to speak to George. It seems something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George, Rebecca, you
hear your mother calling you?
Children! Emily, 7 o'clock. Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up and do it myself.
Ma, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and he needs his rest. I washed and ironed your blue gingham for you, special.
Ma, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, don't be impossible. You always look very nice.
Ma, George throwing soap at me.
I'll come up and slap the both of you, that's what I'll do.
There's a factory in our town too. Hear it? Makes blankets. The Cartwrights own it, and it brought them a fortune.
Children, breakfast is just as good as any other meal of the day. Now I won't have you gobbling it up like wolves. You'll stunt your growth. That's a fact. Oh, put away your book, Wally.
Oh, Mom.
You know the rules as well as I do. No reading at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm bright too. When I'm looking at my stamp collection.
Well, I'll speak to your father about it when he's arrested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy your age. I declare I don't know how you spend it all.
Well, I got plenty of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I can see we got fragile.
Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast. Goodbye. I know you pay attention to your teachers, and we're seeing you right after.
Walk fast, but you don't have to run. Wally, pull up your pants to the knee and Emily, stand up straight.
Tell Miss Foster I sent her my best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Ma.
And pick up your feet, Rebecca. You look real nice.
Bye.
Bye. Here, chick, chick, chick. Here, chick, chick, chick. No, go away, you. Here, chick, chick, chick. Fight, fight, fight. That's all you do. Here, chick, chick, chick. You don't belong to me. Where did you come from? Don't be scared. Nobody's going to hurt you. Oh, good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Well, it's better. But I told Charles I didn't know if I'd go to choir practice. Wouldn't be any use.
Oh, just the same, Myrtle. You come to choir practice and try it.
Well, if I feel any better than I do now, I will. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd string some of these beans.
Ooh, let me help you with those. Beans have been good this year.
Yes, I promised myself I'd put up 40 quarts by winter, even if it kills me. The children say they hate them, but I noticed they were able to get them down all winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Give me some more of those beans. Now, Myrtle, did one of those secondhand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First, I thought he was a patient, wanting to see Doc Gibbs. He wormed his way into my parlor and... Myrtle, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy, as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did, that old thing. Like, it was so big I didn't know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, you?
I don't know.
You don't know? Julia, $350, what's gotten into you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take that money and go away someplace on a real trip, I'd sell it like that. Myrtle, ever since I was that high, I've had the thought that I'd like to see Paris, France. Suppose I'm crazy.
No, I know what you mean. So, what did the doctor say about it?
Well, I did beat around the bush a little bit and said that if I got a legacy, that's the way I put it, that if I got a legacy, I'd make him take me somewhere.
And what did he say about that?
Well, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he said. It might make him discontented with Grover's Gordons to go traipsing around Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years, he takes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War. That's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Charles has a good mind to give up the bullying and move on over to the Civil War, but Doc Gibbs, being one of the greatest experts in the area, just makes him despair.
It's a fact. Doc Gibbs is never so
secondhand man's really serious about buying it, you sell it, and you'll get to see Paris all right.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in your life, before you die, you want to see a country where they don't talk and think in English, and don't even want to.
Thank you, ladies, that'll do. Now, we're going to skip a few hours in our day at Grover's Corners, but before we go on, there are some more things we've got to know about this town. All kinds of things. So, I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to come down here and sketch in a few details of our past history. A kind of scientific account, you might say. Is Professor Willard here? Oh, Professor, right here, right up here, yes. May I introduce Professor Willard of our university. A few brief notes. Thank you, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Archaeozoic granite of the Appalachian Range. It is some of the oldest land in the world. We are very proud of that. A shelf of Devonian basalt crosses it with vestiges of Mesozoic shale and some sandstone outcroppings. Now that's all more recent, 200, 300 million years old. You know, some highly interesting fossils have been found. I may say, unique fossils. 5 miles out of town in Silas Beth's cow pasture. They can be viewed anytime in our university's museum. Did you wish the meteorological conditions?
Thank you, we would.
The annual precipitation is 40 inches. The mean annual temperature is 42 degrees, ranging from 102 in the shade to 32 degrees below zero in the winter.
Actually, Professor, have you Professor Grover's notes on the history of human life here?
Let's see here. Anthropological data. Early Amerindian stock, Cotahuachi tribe. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. Now entirely disappeared. Possible traces in 3 families. Migration beginning in the early 17th century of English brachycephalic blue-eyed stock, for the most part. Since then, some influx of Slav and Mediterranean types.
And the population?
Within the town limits, 2,638.
Oh, actually, there were twins.
2,640. Postal district brings in 507 more. Birth and mortality rates are constant by McPherson's gauge, 6.032.
Thank you very much, Professor. We're all very much obliged to you, I'm sure.
Oh, not at all, sir, not at all.
Right this way, and thank you again. Oh. Another one. Okay. And now, the political and social report. Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb? Oh.
Mr. Webb will be out in a minute. He just cut his hand eating an apple.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles! Charles! Everybody, what
I was on my way. I was having a snack. You know I can't do this on an empty stomach. I just gotta give it to you. You have to do everything for me.
Mr. Webb is publisher and editor of the Grover's Corners Sentinel. That's our local paper, you know.
I don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect.
We're lower middle class, sprinkling of professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republicans, 6% Democrats, 4% socialists, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestants, 12% Catholics, rest indifferent. Do you want to hear the poverty and insanity statistics?
Thank you, no.
But have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town, if you ask me. Little better behaved than most, probably a lot duller. But our young people here seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down right here to live.
even when they've been away to college.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webb. Now, does anyone in the audience have anything they would like to ask Mr. Webb about the town?
Yes. Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, then, I wouldn't know what you'd call much. Saturday nights, the farm hands meet down over at Ellery Greenup Stable in Hollersong. 4th of July, I've been known to taste the drop myself. And Decoration Day, of course. We've got 1 or 2 town drunks, but they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. No, ma'am, I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing in the home here. Except in the medicine chest. Right good for snake bite, you know? Always was.
Does anyone know about...
Oh, sir, you must step down so that everyone can hear you. Now, what was it you were saying?
Does anyone know about social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, everybody is. Something terrible. Seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Why don't they do anything about it?
Well, we're ready to listen to everybody's suggestion as to how the diligent and sensible rise to the top, and the lazy and quarrelsome sink to the bottom. We'll listen to anybody. Well, me time, until that is settled. We try to take care of those that can't help themselves, and those that can, we leave alone. Are there any more questions?
Ooh, Mr. Rack. Mr. Rack. Is there much culture or public beauty in Grover's Corners?
Oh. Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Not in the sense you mean. Come to think of it, there are some girls that play piano at high school commencement, but they ain't happy about it. Yes, and I see where my daughter's been made to read The Merchant of Venice over to the school. Seems all pretty remote to them, you know what I mean? No, ma'am, there isn't much culture, but maybe this is the place to tell you that we've got a lot of pleasures of a kind here. We like the sun coming up over the mountain in the morning, and we notice a good deal about those birds. Yeah, we pay a lot of attention to them, and the trees and the plants. And we even watch the change of the seasons as well. Yes, everybody's aware about those too. But those other things, you're right, ma'am. There ain't much. Robinson Crusoe, the Bible, and Handel's Largo, we all know that one. And Whistler's Mother. Those are just about as far as we go.
So I thought. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the town now. It's middle of the afternoon. All 2,640 have had their dinners and the dishes have been washed. It's an early afternoon calm in our town. Buzzing in a hummock in the schoolyards, horses dozing at the hitching post, only a few buggies on Main Street. You remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is in his office, tapping people and making them say ah. Mr. Webb is over there cutting his lawn. Man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to put his own lawn over. Oh, no sir, it's later than I thought. There are the children coming home from school.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help Mother. I promise.
Ah, Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Oh, golly. I never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Oh, boy, you know better than to play baseball on Main Street. Go out and play in the fields, young man.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Forrest. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class today.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. And I worked an awful long time on both of them.
Gee, Emily, you know, it's funny. From my room over there, I can just see your headlights as you do your homework in your room.
Can you?
Yeah, you certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still so long. I guess you just like school.
I always feel like it's something you have to go through.
Yeah,
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
yeah. Emily, why don't you say we set up some sort of a telegram? from right there to right there. And maybe every once in a while you could give me a hint or two on one of those algebra problems. Of course, I don't mean the answers, Emily. Of course not. Just some little hint.
Oh, I think hints are allowed. So, if you get stuck, George, you whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Gee, Emily, you're just actually bright, I guess.
I figure that's just the way a person's born.
Yeah. Well, you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says that whenever I'm old enough, I can start working on his farm. And if I'm any good, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. I'd better be heading down to the baseball field, Emily. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come over here and help me string these beads. George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation. Well, he's growing up. How old must George be?
I don't know.
Well, he must be around 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today. That was very good.
You'll have to recite it for your father at supper. What was it about?
Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try and get them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear. Not serious.
Seriously. Will you?
Of course.
Mama, am I good looking?
Oh, of course. All my children have good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Mama, that's not what I meant. What I mean is, am I pretty?
Emily, you have a nice, pretty, young face. I've never heard of such nonsense.
Mommy, you never tell us the truth about anything.
Oh, I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Well, if I do say it, I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mamie Cartwright.
But you must say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes, though. Come along and bring that basket.
Mommy, you're no help at all.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Thank you, Emily. Now, I have to interrupt again here. You see, there are some more things we've got to know about this town. Only this time, we're going to go about it in another way. We're going to look back on it from the future. Now, I'm not going to tell you what becomes of these two families we're seeing most of, because the rest of the play will tell you about them. But take some of these others. Take Joe Crowell Jr. Joe was a very bright fellow. He graduated with honors and got a scholarship to Boston Tech, MIT, that is. But the war broke out, and Joe died in France. All that education for nothing. Howie Newsom is still delivering the milk in Grover's Corners. He's an old man now, has a lot of help, but still delivers it himself. Says he gets the feel of the town that way. Carries all the accounts in his head, never has to write down a word. Mr. Morgan's drugstore ain't the same anymore. It's all certified. Mr. Morgan retired and went out to live in San Diego, California, where his daughter married a real estate man named Kirby. Mr. Morgan died there in 1935, and with a whole lot of palm trees. Kind of lost his religion at the end there and took up New Thought or something. They read some newfangled poetry over him and cremated him. The New Hampshire hymn sort of broke down in that climate, it seems like. The Cartwrights got richer and richer. The house is closed most of the year. They're off eating big dinners in hotels now, in Virginia Hot Springs and Miami Beach. They say the winters are cold here. I see where they've become Episcopalians. Cartwright's interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, we're putting in a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel and a copy of the New York Times. We're kind of interested in these kind of things because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all of that reading matter with a kind of glue, silicate glue, that'll make it keep 1,000, maybe 2,000 years. We're putting in a Bible and a Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, and all we know about them is the names of kings, some copies of wheat contracts, and the sale of slaves. Yet every night, all of those families sat down to supper, and the father came home from his work, and the smoke went up in the chimney, same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life of people is what we can piece together out of the joking poems and comedies they wrote for the theaters back then. So, I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstone, so people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us, more than the Treaty of Versailles and the Lindbergh flight. See what I mean? Now, in the provinces north of New York, at the beginning of the 20th century, people ate 3 times a day, soon after sunrise, at noon, and at sunset. Every 7th day, by law and by religion, was a day of rest, and all work come to a stop. The religion at that time was Christianity. I guess you have some other records about Christianity. And the domestic setup was marriage, a binding relationship between a male and one female that lasted for life. Christianity strictly forbade killing, but you were allowed to kill animals, and you were allowed to kill human beings in war and government punishings. Well, I guess I don't have to tell you about the government and business forms, because that's the kind of thing people seem to hand down first of all. Now let me see if there's anything else. Oh, yes. At death, people were buried in the ground just as they are. So, friends, this is the way we were. In our growing up, and in our marrying, and in our doctoring, and in our living, and in our dying. Now, we'll return to our day in Grover's Corners. A lot of time has gone by. It's evening. You can hear choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. All the children are at home doing their schoolwork. The day is running down, like a tired clock.
Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above.
Now, listen here, everyone. Music come into the world to give pleasure. Now, remember, softer, softer. Get out your minds that music is only good when it's loud. You need to stop this to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them even if you wanted to. Now, again, the tenors.
Emily.
Hello.
Hello.
I can't work at all. Moonlight's so terrible.
Emily, did you get the answer to the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Why, yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
It is. Why, I don't see it. Emily, could you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
Yards? Emily, how do you mean?
In square yards?
In square yards.
Why, yes, George. Don't you see? In square yards of wallpaper.
Oh, it's square yards of wallpaper. I see, Emily. Thank you.
You're welcome. Fine. choir practice going on? I think if you held your breath, you could hear the train all the way to Kutika. Hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I'd better get back and try to work.
Good night, Emily. And thanks.
Good night, George.
Oh yes, before I forget, how many of you will be able to come in this Tuesday afternoon and sing at Fred Percy's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be good. That'll be right. Fine. Now, we will do Art Thou Weary, Art Thou Languid. It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk. Ready?
Yes, Pop.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only give you a minute. George, how old are you?
I'm 16, almost 17.
And what do you want to do after school's over?
You see, I'd like to go be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to wake up early, milk and feed the stock? You'll be able to hoe and hay all day.
Of course I will, Pop. What do you mean?
Well, I was in my office earlier today, and I heard a funny sound. What do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother, waking up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still, she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easier to do herself. And you wear her clothes and eat the meal she cooks for you, and still, you run off to play baseball, like you're some kind of hired girl to keep around the house, but we don't like very much. Well, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it, son, with a handkerchief. George, I decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a gift you give her, but because you're getting older now, and I imagine there are lots you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pop.
Let's see, tomorrow's payday, you can count on it. And Rebecca will probably feel she ought to have some more too. And I wonder whatever happened to your mother. Choir practice never was this late before.
Why, it's only 8:30, Pop.
I don't know why she's in the little choir. She has any more voice than an old crow. Traipsing on the streets at this hour of the night. Just about time you retired, don't you think?
Yes, Pop.
Good night, Mr. Foster. Good night, Marta.
My late.
I'll tell Miss Lee. I know who wants to put it in the paper.
Good night, Irma.
Good night. Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Well, look at that moon. Potato weather, that's for sure.
Naturally, I didn't want to say anything from the others, but seriously, it's the biggest scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
No, well,
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drink year after year, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, well, we all know about Mr. Stimson. We all know about the troubles he's been through, and Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him there on his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is to just not notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen anywhere near so often. Mine, it's getting late. I hate to go to bed in the night like this, but those children will be up all hours of the night. Good night, Luella.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
It's as bright as day out. I can see Mr. Soames scowling in the window now. You'd think we've been to a dance the way the men folk carry on.
Well, we had a real good time.
You're late, Doc.
Why, Frank?
And any later than usual.
And you stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come on. Come on. Smell my healing tube in the moonlight. Isn't that wonderful? What did you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there is something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, huh?
Worst I've ever seen him. How'll that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
Guess I know more about Simon Stimpson's affairs than just about anybody in town. Some people ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end. But there's nothing we can do but just leave it alone. Come, get it.
No, not yet. Oh, Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make plans for you to get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there's no sense going over all that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Now, Julia, it's getting late. Next thing you know, you'll catch a cold. I had a talk with the boy tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for you for a while yet. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh, dear. There's always so many things to pick up, it seems like. You know, Mrs. Fairchild locks her front door every night. All the people in that part of town do.
That's the trouble with them. They're all getting citified. They have anything but a burglar and everybody knows it.
Rebecca, what are you doing? Why can't you just go use your own window? You're ruining everything.
Just let me look a minute.
Why can't you just go use your own window?
I can't see the moon there. George, you know what I think? The moon is getting nearer and nearer, and there will be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you're ridiculous. You don't know anything. Look, the moon, we're getting nearer. The men and women who sit in the telescopes all day long would notice something. And then they would put it in the papers, and everybody would be talking about it.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, it probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out now, Grover's Corners. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. And here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Oh, good evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon, huh?
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Stimpson's rolling around a little. Just saw his wife and went out to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. Oh, there he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Most of the town has settled down for the night pretty well. Yes, this way. You get it. Good evening. Yes, most of the town has settled down for the night, Simon. I reckon we better do the same. Can I walk along the ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going down, Mr. Webb.
Well, he's seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you, Bill.
I don't think he smokes those cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Least way it's not more than 2 or 3 a year. He don't belong to the crowd that hangs out down by the gully.
Well, I hope not. Anyways, good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's just me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet, Papa. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yes. Haven't any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa. No.
Well, enjoy yourself, but don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
George, I never told you about that letter Jane Crow picked up from her minister when she was sick. Her minister from the town she was in before she came. Her minister wrote her letter, and the envelope said this: Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, the United States of
Rebecca, what does this
America.
have to do with anything?
I'm not finished yet. The United States of America, the continent of North America, the Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
What do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. But we're going to move right along into Act 2. This is my favorite one. 3 years have gone by. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains have brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a number of people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed that they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to, without their heart fluttering a little. Some older sons are sitting at the head of the table, and some people I know are having their meat cut up for them. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain got bit away a few fractions of an inch. Millions of gallons of water went by the mills, and here and there a new home was set up under a roof. Most everybody in the world gets married, you know what I mean? In our town, there aren't hardly any exceptions. Most everybody in the world climbs into their graves married. The first act is called The Daily Life. This act is called Love and Marriage. There's another act coming after this. I reckon you can guess what that's about. So, it's 3 years later. It's 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married. As soon as they pass their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, looks like they suddenly feel themselves fit to be married. It's early morning. Only this time, it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden and Mrs. Webb's here, drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines, drenched. All yesterday, all along Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk. And here comes Cy Crowell, delivering the papers just like his brother before him. You remember about his brother. All the education he's going to get, and that'll be wasted. And here comes Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb coming downstairs to make breakfast, just as though it were an ordinary day. I don't have to point out to the women in my audience that these women they see before them, both these women, cooked 3 meals a day. One of them for 20 years, the other for 40, and no summer vacation. They brought up 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never a nervous breakdown. Never thought themselves hard used either. It's like what one of those Middle West poets said. You've got to love life to have life, and you've got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Morning, Hallie.
Morning, Si. Anything in the paper that to know about?
Nothing much, except we're losing about the best baseball thing in Grove's Corners had.
Reckon he was. He's been thinning off the whole of southern New Hampshire St. Ranch, looks like.
You could hit him on bases, too.
Yep, mighty fine ball player. Bessie, I guess I can stop and talk about him, mine too.
I just don't see how he gives up something like that just to go get married. Would you, Hallie?
Can't tell, Si. Never had no talent that way. You're a fellow, Bill.
Oh, just seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood. This river's been rising all night.
Si Carl's all worked up here about George kids retiring from baseball.
Oh, yes, sir. That's the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player, Si. Even George Gibbs couldn't touch him. Name of Hank Todd. Moved down to Maine and became a parson. Wonderful ball player. Hey, Howie, how's the weather look to you?
I think it might clear up. Come on, Bessie. Come on.
Morning, Howie. Think it'll clear up?
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. It rained so heavy, I think it might clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
I guess I'll need 3 milk and 2 cream. Howie, I'm gonna have a house full of relations.
Mrs. Newsom said to tell you that we both hope they'll be very happy, Miss Gibbs. Now they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets there for the wedding.
Yeah, she'll be there. She'll be there if she can. Come on, Bessie. Come on. Morning, Mrs. White.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I know I asked for 4 quarts of milk, but could you spare me another, please?
Yes, ma'am. And the 2 cream.
Will it rain all day?
I was just saying to Mrs. Gibbs it's helping. No. My wife says to tell you that we both hope you'll be very happy, Mrs. White. No, they will.
Tell Mrs. Newsom I said to thank you, and we hope to see you all at the wedding.
Yes, we'll be there. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Bessie. Come on.
Well, Mom, the day has come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up there shaving himself. What's someone singing like he's glad to leave us? Every once in a while he says I do in the mirror, but they don't have time to convincing to me.
I declare I don't know how we'll get along. I've arranged his clothes and seen 2 and he's put warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things, and he'll catch his death of cold within a week. Here's something I made for you.
Julia Hershey, French toast.
It ain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
I remember my wedding morning, Julia.
Don't start with that, Frank Gibbs. I tell you, I can't stand it.
I was the scariest gun fellow in all of New Hampshire. I thought I made a mistake for sure. But when I saw you coming down the aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever saw. Only trouble was, I'd never seen you before. There I was in a congregational church, marrying a total stranger.
How do you think I felt? Did you hear Rebecca stirring about upstairs?
No, only morning all year he's ended up managing everybody's business. He showed up in her room. I get the impression she's crying.
Good Lord, this has got to stop. Rebecca! Everything's getting cold down here.
Morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours left to live.
Where are you going?
Oh, just across the grass to see my girl.
Now, George, you take an umbrella and I won't let you out of this house.
Come on, just a step.
Oh, well, from tomorrow on, you can carry yourself in all weathers. But while you're in my house, you live wisely, thank you. There are your overshoes in the hall, and here's an umbrella.
Aw, George, do what your mother tells you.
And maybe Mrs. Webb, if you used to call us at 7 in the morning, take a cup of coffee.
See you later. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, goodness, George, you frightened me. Now, you can come in a minute out of the way, but you know I can't ask you in.
Well, how come?
You know as well as I do. The groom can't see his bride on his wedding day, not before he sees her in church.
That's just a superstition.
Good morning, George.
Good morning, Mr. Webb. Miss Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
There is a lot of common sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George. You don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's that, Mother?
She hasn't even waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound of it.
Emily's asleep?
Well, yes. We were up all hours of the night, packing and sewing. Here, I'll tell you what I'll do. You sit down here a minute and have a cup of coffee with Mr. Webb. I'll go upstairs and make sure Emily doesn't come down and surprise you. Now, there's some bacon too, but don't be long about it.
No, Myrtle, wait, no, come back, please.
Well, George, how are you?
Fine, I'm fine, Mr. Webb. Mr. Webb, how much sense could there really be in such a superstition?
Well, you see, on her wedding morning, a girl's head's apt to be full of clothes and things like that. Don't you think that's probably it?
Why, yes, I guess I've never thought of it that way.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous on her wedding day.
I wish a man could get married without all this marching up and down.
Well, every man that's ever lived has felt that way about it, George. But it hasn't done much good. It's the women that have the built-up weddings, my boy. From now on, they have it pretty much as they like. All those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure that the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
Yeah, but you do believe in it, right, Mr. Webb?
Oh, yes, of course I do. Don't you misunderstand me, my boy. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. And don't you forget that, George.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Oh, let's see. I'd been to college, and it had taken me a little time to get settled. But Mrs. Webb, she wasn't much older than what Emily is. Oh, age hasn't much to do with it, George. You know, not compared to other things.
Mr. Webb, what were you going to say?
Oh, I don't know. Was I going to say something? Give me a spoon. George, I was thinking the other night of some advice my father gave me before I got married. Charles, he said, Charles, start out early showing who's boss, he said. Best thing to do is to give an order, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn to obey. And he said, if anything about your wife irritates you, conversation or anything, just get up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her, he said. And, oh, this was the most important thing. Never let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Mr. Webb, I don't think I could ever do that.
So, I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been happy ever since. And let that be a lesson to you, George. Never to ask advice on personal matters. Oh, George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Uncle Luke's never really been too interested, but
A book came into my office the other day on the philo system of raising chickens. I want you to read it. I'm thinking of beginning in a small way in the backyard, and I'm going to put an incubator in the cellar.
Are you two talking about that old incubator again? I thought you'd be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boy some good advice, I'll go upstairs and leave you alone with him.
Well, George, I talked to Emily, and she said she sends her love, but she doesn't want to see you. So, goodbye, George. Let's go.
Myrtle, I guess you don't know about that older superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the caveman, the groom should not be left alone with his father-in-law on the day of the wedding or near it. Now, don't forget that.
Thank you. Thank you. That'll do.
Now, there are some things we ought to know about this wedding. This plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is.
You're 21 or 22, and you make some decisions, then whoosh, you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years, and that white-haired lady at your side has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they had when they first knew that, well, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do it, I want you to try and remember what it was like when you were young, when you were 15 or 16. For some reason, it's very hard to do. Those days when even the little things in life could be almost too exciting to bear. And particularly the days when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking, and you couldn't quite everything that was said to you. You were just a little bit crazy. Will you remember that, please? Now, they'll be coming out of high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the junior class, and as it's June, that means he'll be president of the senior class all next year. And Emily has just been elected secretary and treasurer. I don't have to tell you how important that is. All ready?
Oh, yes. Data isn't too busy. Oh, I can't, Louise. I've got to go home. Oh, Ernstine. Could you come over tonight and do algebra?
Yes.
I did the first and third in study hall. No, they're not hard, but Ernstine, that Caesar's awful hard.
Yes, it is.
I don't see why we have to do a thing like that. Come over around 7. Tell your mother you have to go.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, Fred.
Emily, may I carry your books home for you?
Thank you.
Just 1 minute, Emily. Say, Bob, head down to the field and get everything ready for practice. I'll be down there in a quarter of an hour. If I'm late, start anyway. And give Herb some long high ones. His eye needs the practice. See you later.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Bye, Lizzie. I'm awfully glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You treat me so funny.
Well, I might as well say it right out, George. I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. Now, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I've just got to tell the truth. And shame the devil.
Emily, I'm so sorry. What do you mean?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot. And I used to watch you as you did everything, because we've been friends so long. And then you began spending all your time with baseball, and you never even spoke to anybody anymore. Not even to your own family, didn't it? George, it's a fact. You've gotten awful conceited and stuck up, and all the girls say so. And now, they may not say so to your face, but that's what they say about you behind your back. And it hurts me to hear them say it, but I've got to agree with them a little. Now, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I can't be sorry I said it.
Emily, I'm so sorry. I never realized that such a thing was happening to me. Because it's hard for a fellow to realize what faults creep into his character.
I always expect a man to be perfect,
Well,
and I think he should be.
I think it's impossible to be perfect.
Well, my father is, and as far as I can tell, your father is. There isn't any reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
Well, maybe I think it's the other way around. That men aren't naturally perfect, but women are. Like you, and your mom, and my mom.
Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It isn't as easy for a girl to be as perfect as a man because girls are more nervous. I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
No, Emily, it's the truth. Well, if it's the truth, you ought to say it, Emily. Stick to it.
I don't know if it's the truth or not. I suddenly feel that it isn't important at all.
Emily, would you like to stop and get an ice cream soda or something on the way home?
Thank you. I would.
Oh, hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Emily, what have you been crying about?
Oh, she just had an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. She was almost hit by that hardware store wagon. You know what they say, that Tom Huggins drives like a crazy man.
Here, take a glass of water, Emily. You're all shook up. There. Now, what do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily, you'll have an ice cream soda with me. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, sir, you've got to be awful careful crossing Main Street these days. Gets worse every year. There are 125 horses this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday. And now they're bringing in these automobiles. Best thing to do is just stay home. Well, I can't remember the day when a dog could just lie down all day in Main Street, nothing would come to disturb it. Oh, yes, Miss Ellis, I'll be with you in a minute. Here are your sodas. Enjoy it.
They're so expensive.
Don't you worry about that, Emily. We're celebrating. First, we're celebrating the election, and, well, Emily, do you know what else we're celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating that I have a friend who tells me all the things that ought to be told to me.
George, please don't think about that. I don't know why I said all of that about you. It's not true.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that. I'm glad you spoke to me like you did. You'll see, I'm going to change. I'm going to make a big change, Emily. Emily, will you do me a favor?
What?
Emily, if I go to state agricultural college next year, will you send me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. It certainly seems like being away 3 years, you'd get out of touch with things.
Well, you see, I mustn't do that. I don't just want to go to be a farmer. I might want to come back home and run for office to be elected. So your letters are going to be very important to me, telling me everything that's going on here.
Just the same, 3 years is a long time. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't a very important place when you think of all of New Hampshire, but I think it's a very nice town.
Emily, the day wouldn't come when I would not want to know everything that's going on here. I know that's true.
I'll try to make my letters interesting.
You know, Emily, whenever I meet a farmer, I always ask them if they think it's important to go to school to be a good farmer.
Why, George?
And most of them even say that it's a waste of time, that they say that I can get all those things anyway from those pamphlets that the government sends out. And, well, Uncle Luke's getting old. He's about ready for me to take over the farm tomorrow if I really wanted to.
Why?
And, like you said, Emily, being gone all that time, meeting new people. Emily, I feel you're as good as a friend as I've got. If anything like that can happen, well, I don't want to go. I don't want to go meet other people from other parts of the states. Well, I bet new people aren't any better than the old ones. I bet they never are.
Just the same, maybe it's very important that you go and learn all about cattle judging and soils and those things. And if you're going into politics, maybe it's very important that you meet people from other parts of the state. Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm going to make up my mind. I won't go to school. I'll tell my father about it tonight.
George, I don't see why you have to decide right now. It's a whole year
Emily,
away.
I'm glad you spoke to me about that. About that fault in my character. Emily, what you said was true. There was one thing wrong with it. You said that for a whole year I wasn't noticing people like you, for instance. Listen, Emily, you say you were watching me when I did everything for a year. Why? Emily, I've been doing the same for you. And sure, I've always thought of you as one of the chief people I've thought about. Well, I've always paid attention to where you were in the bleachers and who you were talking to. We've had lots of jokes and talks in the hallways too, Emily. They've always meant a lot to me. But lately, I've been noticing you've been treating me kind of funny. And like for the past few days, I've been trying to walk home from school with you. And every day something seems to have gotten in the way. Like yesterday, I was waiting on the corner for you and you walked home with Miss Corcoran.
Why, George, I was awful funny. How could I have known? Oh, I thought...
Listen, Emily, I'm going to tell you the real reason that I don't want to go to college. Emily, I feel that when you found someone who cares about you, at least enough to be interested in your character, I think that's just as important as college is. Even more so. That's what I think.
I think it's awfully important, too.
Emily?
Yes, George?
Emily, if I improve, if I make a big change in you, would you be? Could you be?
I am now. I always have been.
I guess this is quite the important talk we've been having.
Yes.
You wait here just a minute, and I'll take you home. I'll have to run home to grab you the money to pay you for those ice cream sodas.
George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me?
I have reasons, Mr. Morgan. I have reasons. Okay. Look, here's my gold watch until I come back with the money.
That's all right, George. You keep your watch. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes, Mr. Morgan.
I'll trust you 10 years, George Gibbs, not a day more. Gone all over your shotgun yet?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Morgan. It was nothing.
I'm ready.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Emily. Now, before we go on to the wedding, there are some more things we got to know about this. What I want to know now is a little bit more about how the parents took it. What I want to know most of all is, oh, you know what I mean. What Grover's Corners thought about marriage anyways. You know as well as I do that people are never able to say right out what they think about love, or fame, or death, or marriage. You've got to catch it between the lines. You've got to overhear it. Doc Gibbs, Mrs. Gibbs.
Rebecca! Time you turned out your light and went to bed. George, you better get some rest too.
Ma, I haven't finished my English.
What? Boy, but you haven't been working. You've been reading a Sears Roebuck catalog. That's what you've been doing. All right. I'll give you 10 more minutes, and if you haven't finished by then, you'll just have to fail the course and be a disgrace to your father and me. George, what are you doing?
I'm doing my history.
Well, you better turn off that light, too. You're probably falling asleep at the desk as it is.
I had a long talk with the boy today.
Did you?
I tell you, Mrs. G, there's nothing so terrifying in the world of the sun. The relation between a father and a son, the damnedest awkwardness. I always come away feeling like a sucky sponge of hypocrisy.
Well, a mother and a daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
George is set on it. He wants to marry Emily as soon as school's out and take her right up onto the farm. Said they can stay up nights and learn farming from Grimmett pamphlets. Stop going to college for it.
Always was crazy about farming. Gets that from mine.
At a pinch, I guess you could start farming. But I swear, he's too young to get married. Julia, he's just a green half-grown kid. He isn't ready to be a family man.
No, he ain't. You're right. But I hate to think of him alone out there. Coming into town Saturday nights, tuckered out from work and looking for excitement. He might get into bad ways. Wouldn't be enough fun for him to come up here and sit by our stove. Holding hands with Emily for a year might be enough fun either. He might lose interest in her. Frank, I've been watching her. George is a lucky boy when you think of all the silly girls in the world.
But, Julia, George married the great gangling, selfish nincompoop.
Yes, I know. Frank, what do you do to your collars? Do you nom? I never saw a man with such collars.
Julia, when I married you, you know one of my parents wasn't getting married.
Go on with you.
I was afraid we wouldn't have material for conversation more than last a couple weeks. I was afraid we'd run out and eat our meals in silence. Not the fact. You and I have been drifting for 20 years now without any notice of barren spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather. Take very choice, but I always find something to say.
What do you think? What do you think, Julia? Shall we tell the boy he can go ahead and get married?
It seems like it's up to us to decide. Charles and Myrtle Weber willing. They think it's best to throw the young people into the sea and let them sink or swim as soon as they're ready.
What does that mean? Must we decide right now? This minute?
There you go, putting all the responsibility on me.
Well, here it is, almost April. I'll go and have a word with the boy right now before he goes to bed. You sure there's nothing more to add, Julia?
I don't know what to say. It seems like it's too much to ask for a big outdoor boy like that to go get shut up in classrooms for 3 years. And once he is on the farm, he might as well have a companion, seeing as he's found a fine girl like Emily. People are meant to live 2 by 2 in this world. Yes, Frank, go up and tell him. Wait a minute. No, go and tell him.
Why'd you stop then, Julia?
Oh, you know, walking up and down with them at 3 a.m. The whooping cough. The time George fell off the porch. You and I were 25 years old and more. It's wonderful how one forgets one's troubles like that. Yes, Frank, go up and tell us it's all right. It's worth it.
Yes, they'll have their troubles. But let them. That's none of our business. Everybody has a right to have their own troubles. In an important occasion like that, you have to be there too. I'll call him down. George.
Yes, Paul.
Can you come down here a minute? Your mother and I want to speak to you.
Yes, Paul. I'll be down in a minute.
Oh, Lord, what a fool I am. Trembling all over. There's nothing to tremble about.
Thank you, that'll do. Now, we're ready to go on with the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. There are a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding naturally, and especially not to a wedding at Grover's Corners, where they're awfully plain and short. In this wedding, I play the minister, and that gives me the right to say a few more things about it. For a while now, the play gets pretty serious. You see, some churches say that marriage is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. It's like what Mrs. Gibbs said a few minutes ago. People were made to live 2 by 2. This is a good wedding, but people are so put together that even at a good wedding, there's a lot of thoughts way down deep in people's minds. And we thought that that ought to be in our play too. The real hero of this scene isn't even on stage at all. And you know who that is. It's like what one of those European fellows said. Every child born into the world is nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. Well, we've seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now. We all know that nature's interested in quantity, but I think she's interested in quality too. That's why I'm in the ministry. Maybe she's trying to make another good governor for New Hampshire. And don't forget about all the other witnesses in this wedding. The ancestors. Millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2 also. Millions of them. Well, that's all my sermon. Wasn't very long anyway.
I don't know why I should be crying. I suppose there's nothing to cry about. It came over me at breakfast this morning. There was Emily eating her breakfast that she's done for 17 years. And now she's off to eat it at someone else's house. I suppose that's it. And Emily, suddenly, she put her head down and said, I can't eat another mouthful. And she cried. Oh, I've got to say it. Something downright cruel about sending our girls off into marriage this way. I hope her girlfriends have told her a thing or two. It's cruel, I know, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I went into it blind as about myself, and the whole world's wrong. That's the matter.
George! If things don't go right, you can call on us, because we'll know what to do. Ain't that right, fellas?
Come on, George. No one's so innocent, you old geezer. We know what you're thinking.
Don't just face the team, big boy.
All right, yep, that's enough of that. Can we please kind of stay in church? We're in a church, please. This is enough. Come on, no one listening to me, please. Listen, all right, yes, please stop. Thank you. There used to be an awful lot of that kind of thing in Rome and later. We're more civilized now. So they say.
I wish I were back in school. I don't want to get married.
George, what's the matter?
Mom, why is everyone pushing me to grow old? I don't want to do so.
No, George, you're one today.
Mom, listen to me. All I want to do is get fellas. Do we even have to get married?
You're a man now.
Listen, Mom, for the last time, just listen to me. George!
Anyone should hear this. Just stop. I'm ashamed of you.
Cheer up, Paul. What do you look so sad for? Cheer up, you're getting married. You have to get ready for this.
Just let me catch my breath a minute.
Now, Molly, be safe Thursday nights. Emily and I are coming to dinner every Thursday night.
I never felt so alone in my whole life. And George over there looking so... Oh, I hate him. I wish I were dead. Papa, Papa!
Emily, now don't get upset, please.
But Papa, I don't want to get married.
Shh, Emily, everything's all right.
Why can't I stay for a while just as I am? Let's go away.
No, Emily. Now stop and think. You're getting over your head.
Don't you remember what you used to say?
It's gonna be all right.
All the time you used to say that I was your girl.
Yes, I remember
There
that.
must be lots of places we can go to. Let's go away. I'll work for you. I can keep house.
Shh. You mustn't think of such things. You're just nervous, Emily. You're marrying the best young fellow in the world, and George is a fine fellow.
But Papa!
George! I need your help. I'm giving away my daughter, George. Can you take care of her?
I want to, Emily. I want to try.
If you love me, then help me. I want someone to love me.
I do love you, Emily. I need you.
If I'm ever sick or in trouble, that's what I need.
I will, Emily. I want to try.
I mean forever. You hear me? Forever and ever.
Oh, okay. They're waiting for us. We gotta go. All right. Now you know everything will be all right. Come on. Simon.
Do you, George, take this woman, Emily, to be your wedded wife, to have and to hold?
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I've ever seen. Oh, I just love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
Do you, Emily, take this man, George, to be your wedded husband, to have and to hold?
Don't know when I've seen such a lovely wedding, but I always cry. I don't know why it is, but I always cry. I just like seeing young people happy, don't you? Oh, I think it's lovely.
I've married 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. Jane marries Reese, millions of them. The go-kart, the Sunday afternoon drives in the Ford, first rheumatism, the grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times, it's interesting.
Aren't they just such a lovely couple? Oh, I've never been to such a lovely wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say, happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be happy. Oh, I remember when I was happy. Back in my 20s. Oh, my love affair in Paris. Eiffel Tower was